Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Maldonado. I am the president of LULAC Council 60. On behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome you. Thank you. On behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome you to the 50th anniversary of President John F. Kennedy's visit with LULAC commemorative reception. At this time, I'd like to ask that you please rise for the presentation of the colors being performed by the student at Austin High School Color Guard, which will then be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please be seated. Go Mustangs. "50 years ago, this evening, in this very building, almost to the exact half hour, it was estimated that he was here between 8 o'clock and 8:30. President John F. Kennedy appeared and spoke before a gathering of LULAC members and the Mexican-American community. It was the very first time in American history that a sitting United States president made an appearance. More importantly, the president's visit was official recognition of the Mexican-American community as a viable political influence. The recognition happened here, in our own backyard, in Nuestra Casa, on the evening of November 21st, 1963. The last night of his life. We honor and celebrate that legacy by reliving those 17 precious presidential moments he spent with us. It is now my pleasure to introduce our Master of Ceremonies for this evening. When it came time for the community to consider a Master of Ceremonies, many names were mentioned. Most of them were local news anchors or reporters. So someone said that this has national significance. So we should have someone of national stature. We agreed and added that our MC should be someone who has a memory of President Kennedy and one with close ties to the Hispanic community. The first name that came to mind was John Quiñones. The committee then charged me to email him and contact him. So I did. This was back in July. I sent him one email, no response, followed up about a week later, sent a second email, no response. Then another email the following week, still no response. So I concluded that that one email probably gets lost in all those hundreds of emails that he receives daily. So I decided to send about 24 emails consecutively, so that way he'll make sure he gets my attention. And he certainly did. He responded and he graciously accepted. In native Texas, he worked for a reporter here in Houston locally, and he has received numerous awards in journalism. We are grateful to have him here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, from ABC News, Mr. John Quiñones.
Hi there. Hi. Hola. Hello, hello. Wow, thank you. Thank you. So great to be here. Bienvenidos. Thank you. So great to be back home. I'm from Texas. I'm from San Antonio. It's so nice to have somebody who can pronounce Quiñones, no? Even people on ABC, they massacre my name, you know? It's like, I don't think Barbara Walters can say Quiñones very well. And people on the street, forget it, no? my friend Sam Rodriguez was with me in San Antonio the other day when I was the master of ceremony, the Grand Marshal of the River Parade in San Antonio. Yeah. But after, it's like Mardi Gras for Mexicanos in Texas, in San Antonio. And after the event, I went through Night in Old San Antonio. And as you know, there's a lot of festivities, lots of food, and lots of tequila. A lot of margaritas are drunk at that event for 10 days. So I was going through the crowd in San Antonio, and this young girl who clearly did not speak Spanish, she was blonde and blue-eyed, and clearly had had too many margaritas, came up to me and said, you're that guy from ABC from 2020, what would you do? And we love the show. And she says, can I take a picture with you, Mr. Cojones? Well, true story. Sammy fell down laughing. He was on the ground laughing. So I didn't know whether to be insulted or complimented, So I decided I would be complimented. I said, that's right, Mr. Cojones to you. It's so great to be here. And yes, I work for the show What Would You Do? It's back December 3rd on ABC. A week from Tuesday at 9 p.m. Texas time, we have a whole bunch of new scenarios of What Would You Do? So you've been warned. We can put those cameras anywhere, So if the person next to you passes out and you pass over them to go get another glass of wine, you're going to have me to talk to afterward. It really is a pleasure to be back home in Texas to this inspiring, I'm sure it's going to be an inspiring LULAC gala commemorating that historic visit by President John Kennedy exactly 5 years ago tonight. He appeared, in fact, in this very ballroom, and I'm especially honored to be here tonight for two reasons. First, this is where I started my radio and television career. I worked at KTRH Radio and at KPRC Television. And in fact, tonight here are my friends who helped me, two colleagues who opened the doors when I was still wet behind the ears trying to get into broadcasting. Sam Rodriguez is here from KTRH Radio. And he's no longer with KTRH. He's found a way to make a lot more money, quite frankly. And also here is Carlos Calvillo, a producer at KPRC. Where are you, Carlitos? There he is. Carlos, along with Tony Bruni, were at KPRC when I did a program called Reflejos del Barrio. Yes! And that was my first venture into television. I remember I used to get paid $50 a Saturday, and that was it. But it bought groceries while I was a radio reporter. And the second reason I'm very proud to be here, of course, is to commemorate President John Kennedy. As you know, I grew up in San Antonio, as I mentioned, in the barrio. And a lot of people who said, a lot of people will say, we were poor, but we didn't know it. We knew we were poor. We had an old black and white television. We saw how the other folks lived. And it was during the civil rights movement. And before that tragic shooting in Dallas, 15 hours after President Kennedy was here, he was running for re-election in 1964. And the centerpiece of President Kennedy's re-election campaign was a large-scale anti-poverty program, which was later expanded, as some of you know, to the War on Poverty. And that fight against poverty gave birth to a program called Upward Bound. And I was one of the Upward Bound students in San Antonio. No one in my family had gone to college. I grew up speaking only Spanish. I didn't, when I went the first day of school, the bell rings at 10 in the morning. I didn't go to kindergarten. There was no bilingual education. I remember going to Mrs. Gregory's first day of class in the first grade, and the bell rings at 10 in the morning. And of course, all the kids go out to recess. Where does little Juanito Quiñones go? I walked home. And my mother, Maria, God rest her soul, said, ¿Qué pasó, Juanito? What are you doing? It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, se acabó, mommy. I love school. 2 hours and you're gone. So she grabbed me by the ear and took me back to Mrs. Gregory's class. We were migrant farm workers. No one in my family had gone to college. But because of the programs that President Kennedy started with the war on poverty, I was able, thanks to Upward Bound, to go to college. President Kennedy cared deeply. He wasn't perfect, but he cared deeply about making this country more fair, more equitable, more just, and more inclusive to those of us who have few opportunities to make it. So it was no surprise that it was here, and it was he, President Kennedy, who became the first American president to appear before a Latino organization like LULAC. Yes. Very happy to be here to commemorate with you this wonderful, wonderful night. First, I want to introduce to you now Mr. David Contreras, who will introduce our honored guests. David?
"50 years ago, on this exact day, several hundred Latinas and Latinos," did I get that right, Erica? "packed this ballroom, hoping to catch a glimpse of President John F. Kennedy and the First Lady Jackie Kennedy. They were just expected to say hello and wave, but instead spent 17 captivating minutes with the crowd. Embedded in the memories of those who were in attendance, and still with us today, are the images and emotions of the 17 minutes that John and Jackie shared with the audience on that magical night. The reception committee is privileged and honored to have in attendance tonight 25 honored guests who witnessed the presence of John and Jackie Kennedy's visit 50 years ago. The LULAC JFK legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to recognize our honored guests. Please stand or raise your hand when your name is called. Tina Adame. Tina was the wife of David Adame, a LULAC member for more than 60 years, and he was a LULAC legend. Tina typed the letter inviting JFK to the LULAC banquet. The letter was authored by past National LULAC President and Council 60 member John J. Hedera. Tina spoke to the First Lady and appears in photos and a video shaking Jackie's hand. Next is Mary Alvarez. Alex Adorius. Alex was a member of Council 389, and he was the vice president. Several honored guests, and I think there's 8 or 9, were members of Council 389, which was an amazing group of young advocates who began addressing equality and civil rights issues as students at Jeff Davis High School. Amparo Arroyos. She's a member of Council 389, and she's the wife of Alex Arroyos. Augustine Ayala. He is the husband of Petra Ayala, who is secretary of Council 389 and owner of the Lost Guest Book, signed by John Kennedy, Jackie Kennedy, LBJ, and Lady Bird, and all of Council 389. Tessie Briones. Tessie was also a member of Council 389. Marianne Briones. She is a member of Council 389 and the treasurer. She's a wife of Tessie. Ernest Aguirre. Ernest has been a member of LULAC for 66 years and was a doorman at the event. He is regarded as a LULAC icon. He's my uncle. Mr. Aguirre recently celebrated his 94th birthday and his 66th wedding anniversary. Maria Hortensia Aguirre. She is the wife of Mr. Aguirre. Lupi Fraga. Lupi is a member of Council 389. Irene Fraga. She's the wife of Lupi Fraga. Dr. George Gamas. Dr. Gamas performed at this event 50 years ago, and he will perform again for us tonight. Joyce Herrera Harper. Joyce is the daughter of John J. Herrera. Fernando Herrera. Fernando performed for the Kennedys 50 years ago, and he's going to perform for us again tonight. Kathy Luz Herrera. Kathy is the daughter of John J. Herrera. And Mr. Mike Herrera. Mike is the oldest son of John J. Herrera and was president of Council 389. Mike collaborated with his father, working behind the scenes in Washington, D.C. to help convince JFK and LBJ to attend the LULAC banquet. Felice Herrera Kish. Felice is the daughter of John J. Herrera, the youngest daughter.